Thank you, Lascian Corley. And on a related matter, Taoiseach, a couple of months ago, when news first broke about government proposals to hand over governance and ownership of the new National Maternity Hospital to St Vincent's Healthcare Group, the public reacted with outrage and disbelief. And that reaction centred on 2 points. Firstly, the inappropriateness of a religious group having any role in the governance of a public maternity hospital. And secondly, the profligate manner in which the government viewed it as acceptable to gift a valuable asset, a state asset, to private interests. We haven't heard the Minister or the Government on this week's developments, but we have heard from the St Vincent's Healthcare Group, which stated that despite the departure of the Sisters of Charity, the terms of the Mulvey report would still apply. St Vincent's Healthcare Group is a private corporate body. It has no right to dictate public government policy. A public hospital funded by the public for public patients should, of course, remain in public ownership. But there is a wider context for public disquiet about giving away a €300 million asset to this private body. The corporate entity known as St Vincent's Healthcare Group has been under audit by the HSE for some time. Concerns relate to the entanglement of St Vincent's University Hospital and St Michael's Hospital, both public hospitals on the one hand, and St Vincent's private hospital on the other, and the suspected cross-subsidisation from public to private. The Director General of the HSE told the PAC in April 2015 that the private hospital was, quote, being run on the back of the public hospital. He described it as having a parasitic dependence on the public hospital, to such an extent that it may well not be viable as a public hospital in its own right. Many questions remain. The HSE still haven't been informed about the detail of the charge created on St Michael's Hospital by St Vincent's Private Hospital in favour of Bank of Ireland. What about the financial arrangements within the group and top-ups and salary scales in operation? A review of consultants' work regarding suspected breaches of contract of consultants' work in the context of consultants' work is to begin shortly. St Vincent's Healthcare Group epitomises many of the structural problems within the Irish healthcare system. The need to disentangle this dysfunction was a key recommendation of the Committee on the Future of Healthcare. Taoiseach, do you not accept that it would be highly imprudent to contemplate exacerbating the anomalous corporate governance arrangement within St Vincent's Healthcare Group by adding yet another public hospital to their portfolio of assets?
3 minutes.
Well, I believe that the decisions that have been taken are extremely important in terms, if you like, of the separation of the influence of any religious body on our health services. And I think everybody here will welcome the decision that has been announced this week by the Sisters of Charity to end their involvement with the St Vincent's Hospital Healthcare Group. And I think it is a very significant development for the whole healthcare sector, in fact. And it does deal with the concerns raised regarding the question of religious influence in the new National Maternity Hospital. They will relinquish their shareholding, and ownership will be transferred to a new company with charitable status to be called St Vincent's Hospital. Now, the sisters have confirmed they will not have any involvement in the new company, no involvement in the new company, or obviously with the operation of the new maternity hospital, and that's very important. That has been completely clarified. So no influence within the hospital and no influence within the new body, the St Vincent's charitable status. That's very important. Now, there has been very extensive engagement on this issue, as you know, under Kieran Mulvey and with the Minister. The Minister continues to look at a number of issues and will be reverting it. I think he should be given the remaining time to continue that work. But you make a broader point about the ownership of hospitals in this country, and we do have a long history of a combination of having public hospitals as well as voluntary hospitals. We do have I think, at least 17 voluntary hospitals in this country, and it's a well-established way of delivering services. You raised the question in relation to this particular hospital, whether that should be changed. I think there are complicated issues involved in that, but as you say, your healthcare report addresses this issue about the model that we want to adopt going forward. But in terms of, if you like, you use the phrase untangling this issue. In terms of untangling this issue, I think there are very complex funding decisions to be taken into account. There's service delivery, because so many services are delivered in this country by voluntary hospitals, and there is a lot of support for voluntary hospitals. So I think it is, the debate certainly began in terms of the influence, the system that was being suggested in relation to St Vincent's, and we've come to a very clear outcome about that, a very important outcome, I believe, and I believe it's the right, absolutely the right outcome. But in terms of the broader issue of the combination of public hospitals and voluntary hospitals that we're going to have in this country going forward, I think there is a political discussion to be had in relation to that, and there are many different elements to it.
Deputy Shortall.
That point, why would you then add to the complexity by handing over a public asset to a private organisation? And you know, this isn't just a question of a voluntary hospital. This is a question of two public hospitals within a private corporate entity. Now, you know, in relation to the Children's Hospital, which is going to be on the grounds of St James's, nobody suggested for a moment that St James's should own that. So, does anybody in government actually know what the financial status is of the different elements of the St Vincent's Healthcare Group? Can you clarify now the status of the Mulvey report? And can you guarantee, Taoiseach, that public money will only be used in the public interest, and that you will ensure that the public purse is protected by ensuring that the new National Maternity Hospital will remain in public ownership? That is a key point. It would be seriously unwise on financial grounds for you to contemplate doing anything else.
Thank you, Deputy Shortall.
What I believe is extremely important in relation to this project is that it gets built without delay, because I'm sure you're familiar with the circumstances in which care is being delivered to pregnant women in Holles Street at present. The staff do an amazing job, absolutely very, very poor conditions. So I believe the priority, now that this issue has been resolved in relation to the one we've addressed already, that issue in relation to the role of the Sisters of Charity, I believe the priority is to get this hospital built. A lot of negotiations have gone on to ensure that we can arrive at that point. The Minister is still considering some of the outstanding issues you've raised, but of course public money will only be used to ensure a quality healthcare service, and that's very clear from the arrangements that have been made in terms of the transition. The transition is to a body that has a charitable status. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. It is St Vincent's charitable status. It is not anything else. It is to ensure that healthcare is delivered to the public, and that the highest standards are met for pregnant women and women who need maternity and obstetric services. And I believe it's important that we move ahead. But I do acknowledge there's a broader point that you're making. But in relation to the particular circumstances, a huge amount of work has been done in order to allow this hospital to go ahead at this site now.